person is Joanne Peevler, to be followed by Craig Bailey. Joanne Peevler. I do not see Ms. Peevler, so we will proceed to Craig Bailey, to be followed by Suzanne Mears. Craig Bailey.
Mr. Mayor, Council, hope it's not in poor form that I read this. I haven't had to memorize a speech since college, and I don't really want to do it anymore. Some of you may remember me from the town hall meeting. My name is Craig Bailey. I'm a car and motorcycle racer from Emporia. I'm not a Topeka citizen like most of you, but I am a taxpayer when I come to town. The taxes I pay are in the form of sales tax, much of which are spent in your town when I'm already here for events at Heartland Park. Just last year, I was here over 20 times. Nearly every time here, I stopped at least one Topeka business to drop off some of those sales taxes to a restaurant, retail store, convenience store, etc. on my way through. I usually had between 2 and 10 friends that joined me to do the same. Now that this track has not been open this year, many of us have already taken our money to other cities and other states. That money could have been here to support your local people, your friends, and your families, those people that depend on customers whose money is used to make their livings, payments, and dreams here. Most events I attended had at least 100 others on the track each day. Some events saw many, many more at the facility. Those numbers don't even include spectators. Those are just like a few of the small events that happen at least once a week. Many forget that Heartland Park also provides jobs every day, not just when it's open for a race. I too have worked some events. Don't you think this has had some economic impact here too? This isn't the NHRA Nationals that happen only once a year. The thing that the media seems to only cover, and I think many opposing Topekans think is the only thing that happens at the track. This is a business that needs to be open, operating, generating revenue for most weeks of the year. That's where your vote comes in. Sometimes a business has to spend some money to get money back in return. Topeka is a business that needs to do that, as does Heartland Park. Both need to work together to make this happen. Even an established business has to make updates and modernize, sometimes replace staff. The small business that I work for in Emporia recently lost our founder and owner. He was a highly respected man and loved by all that knew him. He suddenly had to sell the business before he finally succumbed to a fast-acting terminal disease. Many said the business would never survive without its namesake and founder. Not only has it survived, but it is thriving with a new owner, one that is passionate to make it even better than before. I think this is what needs to happen with Heartland Park. Not shut its gates permanently, but bring in an enthusiastic operator that's full of life and new ideas, not one that's just letting it die a painful death. Many would say that Irwin has run it into the ground. That may very well be the case. That means that the same mistake should not be made again. Let's do it better this time. Let's not give up on it. This $5 million investment bond to be paid back over 10 years seems like a small risk compared to the very conservative estimate of $53 million each year in impact that it has on the community. It actually should be much greater than that with a committed operator and proposed retail development. Any business owner would take that kind of return in a heartbeat. I know a lot of those that you all represent are urging you to vote no tonight. I'm not saying that you should not support those that put you in that seat. What I am saying is that some don't know what they really want, especially when uninformed or misinformed. They trust you to find the facts and to make the best possible decision. I'm no exception to that. I'm smart enough to know that I don't have all the answers. Early on, I was very opposed to this too, but I read, I listened, and I learned. Issuing these bonds may not be the ideal solution for the problem at hand, but I do think it is the best option available to get those outside dollars quickly flowing back into this city and this state. Now that I have more hard facts than blind emotion, I believe that if I were in your place tonight, my vote would be yes.
Thank you for your comments. Suzanne Mears, to be followed by Brian Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, councilmen and women. I'm Suzanne Mears, and I too am not a resident of Topeka. I live with my husband and my family in Roland Park, Kansas, so I am a Kansas resident. And I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, I've had a relationship with Heartland Park Topeka and the current management, not a personal relationship, but a relationship because I'm a motorcycle racer. I know I don't look like one, I look like the PTA president, which I've done that too. Motorcycle racing is a little bit more fun than that, but The current ownership of Heartland Park Topeka has actually put a very sour taste in a lot of folks who ride and race motorcycles. And thank you to Councilman Jensen for the comment that I'm really, really dismayed to hear that we may be basing a decision on the future of Heartland Park Topeka based on the past performance of a really poor management situation. I have encountered in the race groups, and we also mentioned NHRA. I am a member of the CCS ASRA race group, which is a nationally sanctioned motorcycle road racing group. My husband is a professional AMA motorcycle road racer. He's, Heartland Park hosted that group in 2009. I'm also part of the MCRA, which is a group out of St. Louis. So it's not just NHRA that comes to Heartland Park. It's not just the drag racers that come here and spend money in your city. My husband and I, and our children even race, our friends, we come to Heartland Park, I'd say in the past 6 years, probably about one weekend a month. And that's usually a Saturday and a Sunday. That's a lot of time in your city. That's a lot of time eating in your restaurants, shopping in your stores, buying your gas, paying taxes. I love it. I love that this track is in my backyard. And then I can bring my family here and we can do this as our activity. Now, I know you guys have been, just inundated, as Councilman Ortiz said, with letters and notes and phone calls about how awesome racing is and how wonderful it is, and this is so cool and everything. And I would guarantee you that in your lives, you have something that lights your passion exactly like that. It could be your church, it could be your family, it could be your hunting and fishing buddies, it could be something like that. Racing is that for us and for so many people. In 2 weeks, my husband and I and our family and my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law and 500 or 600 of my closest racing friends are going to travel to Hallett Motor Racing Circuit in Jennings, Oklahoma. Hallett is a family-owned, tiny little racetrack. It is nothing like Heartland Park. It's like campground versus resort area. But we're going to go there and we're going to have fun because there is no racing for us this year at Heartland Park Topeka. We're going to go there and we're going to spend our money and we have a heck of a good time. And I appreciate and I applaud all of the effort and the research that's gone into researching, the RFPs and all of that. And I trust that you will make a great decision with the Shelby Group in purchasing the facility or however we go about that. But it's just, if you want to see how a good racetrack is run and how revenue is generated. I'm a marketing person. I worked in broadcast media for 15 years. When I pull into the Heartland Park parking lot, I almost cry because the concession stand's only open at lunchtime. I can't buy a t-shirt. I can't buy stickers. There's no vendor activity out there. There is so much revenue potential at that park that has just been left to die on the vine by the current management. So please, please, please do not let this amazing facility in the Midwest die on the vine. We need it, the community needs it, my family needs it because this is what we do for fun, and I know a lot of other folks that would bring their money to Topeka just like they've done in the past and come back and make this the premier facility that it is. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Brian Cohen, to be followed by Jay Tuckness.
I'm Brian Cohn, current resident of Lawrence, former resident of Topeka. I represent 15,000 racing enthusiasts across the country. We put on, in the past, we've put on 2 events a year here at Heartland Park. And what I want to speak to you about is the fact, number one, obviously that's not happening now. But second, everyone's looking at this from a standpoint of what it is and what it isn't. But remember that Heartland Park is a permanent entity as it is right now. If it's not like your hockey team who's complaining that the cup holders aren't big enough and they might leave town. Motorsport doesn't do that. It doesn't leave. If you have a facility that is being operated properly, which I believe with the team you have selected, and the outline that was outlined tonight, which is excellent, by the way, I have some experience in contract law in that environment, that the doors are open, you have motorsport, you have that money coming to your community, okay? It's not going to leave. If you shut the doors for that year or 2, while somebody else tries to figure out what to do with it, remember, it may not be a racetrack, it could be farmland. Could sit dead, could be vacant. there's no guarantee that Core First can sell it. We assume that, but we don't know. That's an assumption that it will sell, and that it will sell and be used for purposes that benefit Topeka. That's a huge leap to make, okay? Huge leap. As I see from all of this and researching, the only way forward that ensures that Topekans don't pay that note is by ensuring that it stays a racetrack. Otherwise, I mean, I live in Lawrence. You know, I pay it indirectly because I live in Kansas. But if you vote against this and motorsports ceases to exist in that facility, then you're absolutely hanging your citizens with that note. And if you vote for, you give my 15,000 drivers the opportunity to come spend their money here and pay that note for you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Next is Jay Tuckness, to be followed by Charles Chuck Hanna. Jay Tuckness. Do not see him. Next we have Charles Chuck Hanna.
Mr. Mayor, council people, thank you for letting me speak. I'm a hometown fellow. I was born and raised here in Topeka, Kansas.
Could you speak over, just move
Yes,
there?
sir.
There you go.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
As I said, I am a hometown fellow. I was born in Topeka, been here for a long, long time, getting old. I want to speak for the small people, the people that survive from what has been very mismanaged from the racetrack. I will admit that. It hasn't been promoted correctly, and the people that are standing behind now that want to take this thing over and do it correctly, there's a world of opportunity there. But what I want to speak of is the young people that have worked at the track in the summertime, businesses that have been out there on Topeka Boulevard that have hired extra people when there are racing events going on and this and that. These are the people that are going to benefit along with the community. The other thing I'd like to mention is that in the past, in the large events I've seen out there where they've utilized the Boy Scouts, they've utilized junior ROTC to parking and things of this nature, there is an opportunity for the small person to find a job. And I applaud all of you for what you do. I mean, I can't say enough. As I sit back here and listen to you, it's a big chore, but the mistakes made from the past, and you'll put this thing together and make it work correctly. I applaud you all for that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Chuck Levin, to be followed by Gary Vonderschmidt.
Your Honor, members of the City Council, members of the City Executive Offices, thank you once again for allowing me to speak this evening on this issue. I would like to say that I think it's time that we stop pretending that sales tax and property tax are not both types of taxes that we all pay as residents here in the City of Topeka. In the new Star Bond District that's proposed, it needs to generate $17 or more million a year in order to offset, to make the amount of money to service the debt in the future. So, in order for Heartland Park Topeka to be even relevant in that, the economic impact in the area would have to be involving somewhere year-round, every month, about 12,000 customers a year, spend about $150 each time they come to town. If it's operating 6 months a year, that's 24,000 people spending about $150 to $300 a time they come to town. So that would take the whole economic impact. So as you retard that back, Topekans are still paying a majority or half of what the economic sales tax revenue that we need. So that's fine. So but in the meantime, we also need to not stop kidding ourselves that the only people really guaranteed to make money on this are the people who buy the bonds, the people who service the bonds, okay? And then there will be a short-term economic impact for those who are hired temporarily or those who promote an event and actually have a successful event, and there are successful events in that area. But the bulk of the money is not going to be spent in the area, and it's not going to necessarily be made in the area. It'll come through tertiary businesses throughout town, and that's fine. But we've made it more complicated because we're going to borrow more money, pay out more money in interest, okay, when the debt to get it started in the private sector is only about $5.9 million. And I would love to see it go to the private sector and continue racing, because I think racing is important in our community. I'm not afraid of not having control of it. I think that if we got out of it, it might be more successful. If every time somebody had a complaint about noise or some other thing in there, and we told them, passed a few more ordinances they have to comply with, it's going to raise the costs, slow down. They might not even do as much work as they planned on doing because it's just too complicated now because the city has put more restrictions on us. For months, we discussed this as we didn't want to be in the racing business. And the city manager said, hey, we're not going to be in the racing business. We don't have a racing department. We're in the real estate market. I prefer not to be in the real estate market as well. And I just was blown away, but I guess it makes sense that this 18% interest rate in default was only because it raised up because it went to default. So in order to leave it open, they have to have some incentive. Okay, but that's a lot of money. I would urge you to vote no and let the private sector decide. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Gary Vonderschmidt, to be followed by Rob Parks.
Good evening. I'm Gary Vonderschmidt. I've lived in Topeka since 1985. I've been involved with the track before it was even built. I joined Sports Car Club of America. We promoted it out at White Lakes Mall, tells you how long ago that was. To get this track going, to make it someplace for people to go have fun, have some kind of an enjoyment. I've been involved with the track with the SCCA, the NHRA, private track rentals, and then for Heartland Park for a time. I'm totally retired from everything now. We need to keep this track operational. The money brought in to boost the Topeka economy, we need that money. People bring in money, and the entertainment value to keep people here in Topeka. People say there's nothing to do. Let's go somewhere where there's something to do. We need that track here to keep people involved in something to do. A couple years ago when I was working out the track, we had a private track rental. There were $4 to $5 million worth of cars out on that track. And the cheapest car that was out on the track was a Corvette. So there's people that got money, they'll come out there, they'll spend money. That is just an amazing thing. And Heartland Park must be a good place because in May in 1991, Ferrari sent their F40 car all the way over to a little old Topeka, Kansas, and they debuted that car at the IMSA race. So it must be a pretty special place for Ferrari to bring a car and debut it in America at Heartland Park, Topeka. And we need to, when Ferrari brings a car to Topeka, that puts Topeka out on the map. Let's know everybody where Topeka, Kansas is. And we need to vote to keep this track going, to give the new operators a chance to get the track back on track and give it the green flag. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Next is Rob Parks, to be followed by Elise McKinnon.
Mr. Mayor, Council, first I would just like to commend you guys. I go to a lot of city council meetings, some good, some bad, but to do the Pledge of Allegiance to start it, very few people do that anymore. As a staunch patriot, I appreciate that, and that's a good thing, so thank you. I've been a director for the National Hot Rod Association for 19 years. I've got over 30 years in this industry. Most would consider me an expert. I do not envy your job whatsoever. I mean, you guys have a lot of masters to serve right now. All of them are self-serving, including myself. I mean, I'm a drag racing fan. You guys have a phenomenal facility. I oversee 23 racetracks within the Midwest and Manitoba, Canada. You guys are number one. You guys have a phenomenal facility here, and it's very important to us from the NHRA standpoint. Some people have questioned how important Topeka was. Well, I can tell you, we don't go into a national event site without an operator. We're going over a lot of hurdles and spending a lot of extra effort to be here in 3 weeks. We'd like to invite all of you guys out. Anybody that wants to come out and join us to see what we do, we would appreciate that, and I'd be happy to show you around. NHRA was founded, number one, to get the people, the kids, and off the streets, the illegal street racers. We're also here to protect and preserve the sport of drag racing. If you're not a motorsports fan, if you're not a drag racing fan, that's okay. But I can promise you, you do not want the people on the streets racing. We had a track closed down in Kansas City not too long ago. Illegal street racing has went up. You guys don't want to face that here, I can promise you that. And we've fought that throughout the country. You know, with the national event happening, and I've heard some of the dates, and I respect everything that you guys have said, but looking down the road, I can't predict the future, and I can't promise that our national event will stay here. And the further down the road we go, the less likely it is. We're already planning for 2016. So if we wait till November, our schedule is done in November. I'm just being honest with you. To increase the percentages of us staying here with a national event, we need a good, solid operator in place. You know, Shelby, I've done a lot of reading. I actually know 3 of the 4 candidates. I know Chris. I've known him for years. Somebody mentioned earlier the economy. In 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007, motorsports in general had a growth rate that was unprecedented. Everybody was sticking their chest out, and we were feeling pretty good about ourselves. And that's when you guys were making a lot of improvements on Heartland Park, Topeka. 2008 hit, and everybody came back to reality. Well, so what we're teaching our tracks now, especially like in the Midwest, which is what I'm in charge of, our window of opportunity for revenue is small because of the weather. So we're teaching our tracks, you can't bank everything on racing. You have to find 24/7, 365 a day revenue. And that's with storage buildings, convenience stores, motels, which is exactly Shelby's plan right now. I mean, they understand the market. They understand, you know, the commercial market besides the racing entities. So I think that's important to know. You know, Topeka actually, the racetrack has been a good partner for the city of Topeka, in my opinion. And I've worked closely with the management ever since the O'Shaughnessy.
Okay, your time is up. If
I
you'd
would
like
move to extend this time.
Do you want to conclude, or do you need extra time?
I'll make it real quick.
We can give you time.
And I apologize. I'm not
Okay.
used to having time, except
All
for
right.
when my wife's telling me.
Okay, about how much time do you need?
Can I have a minute?
All right, you want to move?
I would move to give him a minute.
Chanson's move to extend the time for 1 minute. Councilman
thank you.
Schaum
And I'll speak
seconds.
quickly.
All those in favor vote yes, opposed vote no. I vote yes.
We
Thank you.
have 10 yes.
And yes, you have 1 more minute.
Thank you. You know, Topeka's been a good partner, and actually they haven't charged organizations. They've had the kids, AAA sponsored a texting and driving class for the kids to come out and understand it. They've had what they call a tire rack street survival that teaches teenage kids how to drive under adverse conditions. So they've done a lot of things for their community at no charge to the community. So it's important that we keep that place open. Lastly, I've got 2 other events. We all focus on the national event. I've got 2 other events scheduled. One in August, which is the first time I've ever done this event here. It's the Lucas Oil Drag Racing Series, which is the next tier down below the national event. Except for this year, I've doubled it. I'm doing 2 races in one weekend. So it increased from a 2-day race to a 5-day race. And it's, I mean, the backing from the racers is phenomenal. Everybody's money conscious right now. So if they can come and race 2 races in one weekend with one expense, and they come in and do the restaurants, the hotels.
Your time is up.
I apologize.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you
your
guys.
comments.
Good luck with your decision.
Thank you. Elise McKinnon, to be followed by Nick Scott.
Good evening. My
Good
name's
evening.
Elise McKinnon. Heartland Park is where I learned to drag race motorcycles, and I've been lucky to be able to call that my home track ever since. I urge you to vote yes for issuing the star bonds so we can get Heartland Park back up and running. Since Heartland Park has not been open this year, my race team and I have been traveling in order to be able to race to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Omaha, Nebraska. We would love to run at Heartland Park and bring our money to Topeka. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Nick Scott.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Nick Scott. I'm a resident of Topeka. I think I'd like to reiterate a point previously made, a disclaimer about the foreclosure option. In foreclosure, there's no guarantee that Heartland Park will continue as a functioning racetrack. Someone could buy it, turn it into farmland, they can make it a housing development, anything can happen. You know, frequently in America, things go to the highest bidder. Foreclosure would be no different. As a racetrack, Heartland Park provides a mutual benefit to the city of Topeka. It brings in a lot of out-of-town money. We've heard some people talk about that this evening. Apparently, Howlett Motorsports Park is going to have a banner year this year because we've heard from multiple people, I like to spend my money in Topeka, but I can't this year because the track's not functioning, so I had to take my money to Jennings, Oklahoma, which is right outside of Tulsa. So when you hear those places referred to, that's one racetrack. I would urge you to vote yes. Heartland Park is an existing track right now. Let's issue these star bonds. Let's get this track open. Let's bring some economic activity back to Topeka. I urge you to vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I think we have been here 2 hours. Let's take a brief, no more than 10-minute break, and then we will continue with the meeting.
Are you not feeling well? No, I don't think so.
Here's my flowers.